The shuttle bay doors exploded inward with a shriek of tearing metal. Commander Jake Morrison hit the deck as debris scattered across the hangar. His rifle was up before his knees touched the floor. Around him, the crew of the trading vessel Horizon scrambled for cover behind cargo containers. "Contact!" Lieutenant Amy Rhodes shouted from behind a fuel cell. "Multiple hostiles boarding from the breach." Jake's heart hammered against his ribs. They weren't supposed to be here. The Kale Empire controlled this sector absolutely. No one challenged them. No one survived if they tried. The first warrior came through the smoke like a nightmare given form. 8 feet tall, armored in black chitin that seemed to absorb light itself. 4 arms, each holding a weapon that hummed with lethal energy. Behind it, a dozen more poured into the bay. "Fall back to the inner corridor," Jake ordered. His team opened fire. Plasma bolts streaking across the hangar. The shots splashed harmlessly off the Kale armor. They were outmatched, outgunned. Dead already by every tactical measure Jake knew. The Kale warriors advanced without hurry. They didn't need to rush. Everyone knew what happened when the Kale Empire came calling. Surrender meant slavery. Resistance meant extermination. A voice cut through the chaos, transmitted directly into Jake's neural implant. Cold. Ancient. Absolute. "Humans, you will cease resistance. You will kneel." The words carried weight that went beyond sound. Jake felt pressure building in his skull, a psychic force trying to crush his will into submission. Around him, 3 crew members dropped their weapons and fell to their knees, eyes glazed. Amy screamed as her legs buckled. Jake's vision blurred. The voice demanded obedience. Empires had crumbled under that voice. Worlds had burned. Species had gone extinct. Rather than endure what came after defiance, his finger tightened on the trigger. The rifle kicked against his shoulder. The bolt struck a Kale warrior in its center mass. The creature staggered. Just one step. Just enough. The pressure in Jake's mind vanished like a snapped wire. "On your feet, Marines," he roared. "They bleed, we fight." The shuttle bay erupted in renewed chaos, but something had changed. The Kale warriors paused, their formation breaking for the first time in recorded history. Through the breach came a figure that made the warriors look small. 10 feet of flowing robes the color of deep space, a crown of crystalline spires rising from a head that combined insectoid and something terrifyingly beautiful. 6 eyes, each burning with purple fire. The Empress herself. Jake raised his rifle. She smiled. The Empress moved like liquid shadow across the ruined shuttle bay. Her warriors parted without command, forming a corridor of black chitin and deadly silence. Jake kept his rifle trained on her center mass, but his hands had started to sweat inside his gloves. Amy pulled herself upright using a cargo container, her rifle shaking. "Commander, that's her. That's actually her," Jake knew. Everyone in human space knew what Empress Valeria looked like. Her image was burned into every military database, every intelligence briefing, every nightmare scenario the Colonial Defense Force had ever run. She had personally overseen the annihilation of the Torgothi species. She had turned the Mesh Collective into mindless servants. She had ruled the Kale Empire for 3,000 years without a single defeat, and she was walking straight toward him. "Fascinating," Valeria said. Her voice was different now, no longer the psychic hammer that had crushed his crew moments before. It sounded almost curious. "You resisted the voice. Your species has been on the galactic stage for only 40 years, yet you resisted." Jake didn't lower his weapon. "We're real good at not doing what we're told." The nearest Kale warrior hissed, raising all 4 weapons. Valeria lifted one slender hand, and the creature froze mid-motion. "I have conquered 647 species," the Empress continued, stepping over a piece of debris without looking down. "I have broken the will of beings older than your sun. I have watched civilizations beg for the mercy of extinction." She stopped 10 feet away, well within his rifle's kill range. "None of them spoke to me the way you just did." "First time for everything," Jake said. His pulse thundered in his ears. Every instinct screamed at him to fire, to run, to do anything except stand here trading words with a 3,000-year-old tyrant. Valeria's 6 eyes focused on him with an intensity that made his skin crawl. What is your name, human? Commander Jake Morrison, Colonial Defense Force. Commander Jake Morrison. She spoke his name like she was tasting it. Do you know why I came personally to your vessel? Because you really hate trade ships. Amy made a strangled sound beside him. The Empress tilted her head, and Jake realized with cold shock that she was amused. Your ship entered my territory carrying weapons-grade fusion cores. Contraband. The penalty is immediate execution of all crew and seizure of assets. Those cores are medical supplies for the colony on Epsilon Reach, Jake said. They run the hospital generators. You can scan them yourself. I did scan them. They are fusion cores. Their application is irrelevant to Kyle Law. Valeria took another step closer. I came personally because your ship's registry indicated a human crew. I wanted to see the species that has been refusing my annexation offers for 5 years. Jake's grip on his rifle tightened. We're not interested in being part of your empire. Every species says that initially. Then I demonstrate the cost of refusal, and they reconsider. Valeria's eyes flickered with something Jake couldn't identify. But humans continue to refuse. Your colony ships continue to push into unclaimed space. Your trade vessels violate my borders with increasing frequency. And when my warriors board your ships, you fight? Yeah, well, like I said, Valeria stopped directly in front of him. This close, Jake could see the alien geometry of her face, the way her crystalline crown caught and refracted light into impossible colors. She was terrifying and beautiful in equal measure, and he had absolutely no idea what she was going to do next. Lower your weapon, Commander. No. The word hung in the air between them, behind Valeria. Every Kale warrior tensed. Amy's breathing quickened. Somewhere in the back of the bay, a piece of damaged equipment sparked and hissed. Valeria smiled again. Not the predatory expression from before. Something else, entirely. Remarkable, she whispered. Then she turned to her warriors and spoke in a language that sounded like grinding stone and distant thunder. The warriors hesitated, their weapons still raised. Valeria repeated the command, her voice sharp. The Kale warriors lowered their weapons and withdrew toward the breach. Jake's brain struggled to process what he was seeing. What are you doing? An experiment, Valeria said. She looked back at him, and Jake saw something in those alien eyes he never expected to see in a galactic tyrant. Interest. You may deliver your medical supplies to Epsilon Reach. You have 48 hours to leave my territory. Just like that? Just like that. Valeria moved toward the breach, her robes flowing behind her. At the torn opening, she paused. Tell me, Commander, do all humans possess your particular brand of foolish courage, or are you unique? Jake finally lowered his rifle. Guess you'll have to meet more of us to find out. The Empress's laughter echoed through the ruined shuttle bay as she vanished into her ship. The Kale warriors followed, moving with mechanical precision. Within minutes, the enemy vessel detached and pulled away, leaving the horizon floating in the debris field. Amy collapsed against the cargo container. What the hell just happened? Jake stared at the empty breach, his hands still shaking. I have absolutely no idea. The Colonial Defense Force headquarters on New Terra looked like a fortress carved from gray stone and bad decisions. Jake stood in the briefing room with his arms crossed, watching Admiral Patricia Grant pace back and forth like a caged predator. Let me see if I understand this correctly, Grant said, her voice tight with controlled fury. The Empress of the Kale Empire, the single most dangerous entity in known space, boarded your vessel, had a conversation with you, and then just left. Yes, ma'am, Jake said. And in this conversation you told her we're stubborn and not interested in her empire. That's accurate, ma'am. Grant stopped pacing and turned to face him. She was 50 years old, carved from titanium and coffee, and had commanded fleets through 3 separate border conflicts. Jake had seen her stare down admirals twice her rank. Right now, she looked genuinely unsettled. Commander, do you understand what the Kale Empire does to species that refuse annexation? I'm familiar with the Torgathy extinction event, yes, ma'am. Then you understand that your little chat might have just signed humanity's death warrant. Grant pulled up a holographic display. Intelligence reports started flooding in 6 hours after your encounter. KL fleet movements along our entire border, 47 warships repositioning. Every military analyst we have thinks we're looking at an invasion. Jake's stomach dropped. She let us go. She seemed almost friendly. Friendly. Grant's laugh was bitter. The Empress doesn't do friendly, Morrison. She does strategic. And right now, her strategy appears to involve showing humanity what happens when you mouth off to a 3,000-year-old conqueror. The briefing room door opened. A young intelligence officer hurried in, tablet in hand. Admiral, we have an incoming transmission. Priority Alpha. It's from the Kale flagship. The room went silent. Grant's jaw tightened. Put it through. The holographic display flickered. Empress Valeria's image materialized in the center of the room, 10 feet tall and radiating cold authority. Her 6 eyes swept across the assembled officers before settling on Jake. Commander Morrison, how pleasant to see you again. Jake stepped forward, ignoring Grant's warning look. Your Majesty, I have a proposal for your species, Valeria said. One that will determine whether humanity continues to exist or joins the Torgothi as a cautionary tale in my archives. Grant moved beside Jake, her posture rigid. I am Admiral Patricia Grant, commanding officer of the Colonial Defense Force. If you have terms, you present them to me. Valeria's gaze shifted to Grant. Admiral, your reputation precedes you. The Battle of Crestfall Station was quite impressive for such a primitive species. Get to the point, Grant said flatly. The Empress's smile was sharp enough to cut steel. Direct. I appreciate that quality in lesser beings. Very well. I propose a trial. A test of your species' worthiness. We're not interested in proving ourselves to you, Grant said. Then you will die. Valeria's voice carried no emotion, just statement of fact. Those are your options, Admiral. Participate in my trial. Or face the full might of the Kale Armada. I have ships enough to turn every human world into ash within a standard month. Jake felt the weight of those words settle over the room like a burial shroud. Every officer present knew she wasn't bluffing. The Kale Empire had the firepower to make good on that threat 10 times over. What kind of trial? Jake asked. Valeria's attention returned to him, and something flickered in her alien eyes. Single combat. You against my champion. If you win, humanity earns a century of autonomy from the Kale Empire. No annexation demands. No border conflicts. Complete independence. And if we lose, Grant demanded, humanity becomes part of my empire. Willingly. The room erupted in protests. Grant raised her hand for silence. That's insane. You're asking us to bet our entire species on one fight. I am offering you a chance, Valeria corrected. Without this trial, invasion is certain. With it, you have an opportunity for survival. A small opportunity, but more than the Torgothi received. Jake studied the Empress's expression. There was something else happening here, something beneath the surface. Why offer this at all? Why not just invade? Valeria's 6 eyes locked onto his. Because, Commander Morrison, in 3,000 years of conquest, I have grown exceedingly bored. Your species interests me. I wish to see what you can do when survival hangs in the balance. You're treating this like a game, Jake said, anger heating his voice. Everything is a game when you have lived as long as I have. Valeria leaned forward in the holographic display. But make no mistake, the stakes are quite real. Choose your champion wisely, Admiral. You have 70. 2 hours to accept or decline my offer. The transmission cut out. Grant immediately turned to her staff. I want every tactical analyst we have working scenarios. I want to know everything about Kale combat champions. I want options that don't involve betting humanity on a fist fight. The officers scattered. Grant grabbed Jake's arm. My office. Now. 5 minutes later, Jake stood in front of Grant's desk while she poured herself a drink from a bottle she kept for catastrophic occasions. She's fixated on you, Grant said. You realize that, right? I noticed. This whole trial proposal is because you caught her attention on that shuttle bay. Grant downed the drink in one swallow. We're in this mess because you didn't know when to shut up. With respect, ma'am, we were already in this mess. The Kale Empire has been circling us for 5 years. Grant slammed the glass down. And now they're offering us a way out that involves you fighting some 8-foot monster to the death. Do you have any idea what their champions are capable of? They're genetically engineered killing machines. They've been training for combat since before your grandparents were born. Jake met her eyes. So we decline. And then what? Grant was silent. We can't win a war against the Kale Empire, Jake continued. Every simulation we've ever run ends with human extinction. This trial might be insane, but it's a chance. You're volunteering. Yes, ma'am. You'll die. Probably. But at least humanity won't die with me. Grant stared at him for a long moment. Then she poured another drink and slid it across the desk. You're either the bravest person I've ever met, or the dumbest. I haven't decided which. Jake took the glass. Can it be both? The Kale Arena ship materialized in orbit above New Terra exactly 72 hours after the Empress's ultimatum. It was a massive sphere of dark metal, bristling with weapons and pulsing with an energy signature that made every sensor on the planet scream warnings. Jake stood in the transport shuttle, watching the arena grow larger through the viewport. Amy sat across from him, checking his combat suit for the 5th time. Vitals look good, she said. Suit integrity at 100%. Neuralink responding perfectly. She paused. You're really doing this. Seems that way. You know the odds, right? Our analysts ran every simulation they could. Best case scenario, you last 90 seconds against a Kale champion. Jake pulled on his gloves. Then I better make those 90 seconds count. The shuttle docked with the arena ship. The airlock opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Beyond it stood 2 Kale warriors, their black armor gleaming under harsh white lights. Commander Morrison, one of them said in perfect English. The Empress awaits. They led him through corridors that seemed to shift and flow, the walls covered in biomechanical patterns that hurt to look at directly. Amy followed close behind, her hand never far from her sidearm. Not that it would matter if things went wrong here. The corridor opened into an arena that stole Jake's breath. It was enormous. A circular platform half a mile across, surrounded by rising tiers of seating that climbed toward a domed ceiling, lost in shadow. The floor was some kind of adaptive material that rippled like water under his boots. Around the arena's edge, holographic displays showed the fight to what must have been billions of viewers across the Kale Empire. And in those seats sat representatives from hundreds of species. Jake recognized some from intelligence briefings. The crystalline Vex, the gaseous Mundari, the reptilian Sclaff, all of them subjects of the Kale Empire, all of them here to watch humanity's fate be decided. In the highest tier, on a throne that seemed carved from solidified starlight, sat Empress Valeria. Welcome, Commander Morrison. Her voice boomed across the arena. You honor me by accepting my challenge. Jake stepped onto the platform. Let's get this over with. Valeria stood, her robes cascading down the steps as she descended toward the arena floor. Every eye in the massive space followed her movement. She radiated power like a sun radiated heat, undeniable and absolute. She stopped at the edge of the platform. Before we begin, I want you to understand what you face. My champion is Krath Zul the Undying. He has fought in 2,000 trials. He has killed opponents from 400 different species. He has never been defeated. Sounds like he's due for a loss, Jake said. A ripple of shock went through the assembled aliens. Apparently, you didn't joke with the Empress. Valeria's expression was unreadable. Your courage remains intact. Good. You will need it. She gestured toward the opposite end of the arena. Behold. A section of the floor opened. Rising from below came a platform carrying the largest living thing Jake had ever seen. Krath Zul stood 12 feet tall. His body was a nightmare fusion of muscle and armor plating, grown together into something that shouldn't be possible. 4 arms, each ending in claws that looked capable of tearing through steel. His head was a ridge of bone and horn, with eyes that glowed like hot coals. The creature stepped onto the arena floor. The entire platform shook. Oh, hell, Amy whispered behind him. Jake's heart hammered against his ribs, but he kept his expression neutral. He's big. Big things move slow. Jake, that thing will rip you apart. Maybe. Jake checked his weapon loadout one last time. The Colonial Defense Force had given him their best gear, a plasma rifle with enhanced output, a combat knife forged from the hardest metals humanity could produce, body armor that could withstand direct hits from conventional weapons. It wouldn't be enough. He knew that. Everyone knew that. But Jake Morrison hadn't survived 3 border wars by playing it safe. Valeria raised her hand. The arena fell silent. The rules are simple. Combat continues until one fighter cannot continue or yields. All weapons are permitted. All tactics are acceptable. Hers, eyes fixed on Jake. There is no mercy. There is only victory or death. Do you understand? Crystal clear, Jake said. Then let the trial begin. The Empress's hand dropped. Krathzul charged. The creature moved like an avalanche. Impossible speed packed into that massive frame. The distance between them evaporated in seconds. Jake rolled left, bringing his plasma rifle up. He fired 3 shots into the champion's center mass. The bolts splashed against Krathzul's armor like water on stone. A massive claw swept through the space where Jake had been standing, moving fast enough to create a sonic crack. Jake came up firing, targeting joints and gaps in the armor. Krathzul roared, a sound that rattled Jake's bones, and backhanded him with one massive arm. Jake flew 20 feet and hit the platform hard enough to see stars. His suit's warning system screamed damage alerts. He tasted blood. Krathzul stalked toward him. Unhurried now, the creature knew it had won. Every being in the arena knew it. Jake forced himself to his feet. His ribs screamed protest. His vision blurred. The plasma rifle was gone, lost somewhere in the impact. He drew his combat knife. Krathzul laughed. The sound was wet and horrible. Jake looked up at Valeria's throne. The Empress sat perfectly still, her alien face unreadable, but her Seek's eyes never left him. "Come on, then," Jake said to the champion. "Let's dance." Krathzul charged again. This time, Jake didn't try to dodge. He stepped forward, inside the creature's reach, and drove his knife toward the gap where neck met shoulder. The blade sank deep. Krathzul screamed. Real pain this time. The champion grabbed Jake with 2 of its arms and hurled him across the arena. Jake hit the edge of the platform and nearly went over. His suit was failing. 3 ribs broken, left arm dislocated, but Krathzul was bleeding. The champion pulled the knife free and crushed it in one massive hand. Then it smiled, showing rows of serrated teeth. Jake pushed himself up one more time. No weapons, no armor, just him and a creature built to kill. The arena held its breath. Jake started laughing. The sound of Jake's laughter echoed across the silent arena like a gunshot. Krathzul stopped mid-stride, confusion flickering across its brutal features. In the highest tier, Empress Valeria leaned forward on her throne. "You find your death amusing, human," the champion rumbled. Jake spat blood onto the arena floor. "I find it funny that you think this is over," he charged. Every tactical instructor Jake had ever trained under would have called it suicide. Running straight at a 12-foot killing machine with broken ribs and no weapons. But Jake had learned something in 3 border wars that no simulation could teach. Sometimes the only way to win was to be crazier than your opponent expected. Krathzul swung with all 4 arms simultaneously, a killing pattern that should have turned Jake into paste. Jake dropped into a slide, his momentum carrying him between the champion's legs. He grabbed one of the creature's ankles as he passed, and pulled with everything he had. Physics did the rest. Krathzul crashed forward, the arena platform shaking from the impact. Jake was already moving, scrambling up the champion's back. The creature thrashed, trying to reach him, but its massive arms couldn't bend at the right angles. Jake found the wound he'd opened with his knife. He drove his thumbs into it and pulled. Krathzul's scream shattered the arena's silence. The champion rolled, trying to crush Jake beneath its weight. Jake held on, his fingers slick with alien blood, tearing the wound wider. The creature's armor was impenetrable from outside, but inside was just flesh and pain. They rolled across the platform in a brutal tangle. Krathzul finally got a grip on Jake's leg and flung him away. Jake hit the ground hard, his vision going white. Something else broke inside him. He couldn't feel his left leg anymore. The champion stood, ichor pouring from the neck wound. It was hurt, actually hurt, and the shock of it radiated through the assembled aliens like a shockwave. "You should have stayed down," Krathzul growled. "I would have made it quick." Jake dragged himself upright using the platform's edge. His suit had stopped giving warnings because there were too many to count. Quick's boring. Krathzul charged again, but slower this time. The wound was affecting it. Jake saw the opening and took it. He dropped flat at the last second. The champion's momentum carried it past him, straight toward the platform's edge. Almost. Krathzul caught itself, claws digging into the adaptive material. It turned back toward Jake with murder in its eyes. Jake noticed something. The platform material where Krathzul's claws had dug in was rippling, changing color. The arena floor was reactive, responsive to damage. An insane idea formed in his broken mind. "Hey, ugly," Jake called out. "Bet you can't catch me." He ran. Or rather, he limped as fast as his destroyed body would allow, making for the center of the arena. Krathzul pursued with predatory patience. The champion had learned caution. It wouldn't make the same mistake twice. Jake stopped in the exact center of the platform. He turned to face Krathzul, swaying on his feet. "This is it. No more running. You want me? Come get me." Krathzul studied him with those coal-hot eyes. A trap, maybe. Or maybe I'm just done running. Jake spread his arms wide. "Either way, you're going to have to come through me to win this thing." The champion's pride won out over caution. It charged, all four arms extended, claws spread wide to prevent any escape. The distance closed. 20 feet. 10. 5. Jake dropped straight down. Krathzul's momentum carried it over him. The champion tried to stop, but the adaptive platform material beneath Jake had been weakened by all the impacts, all the blood, all the damage. It gave way. Both of them fell. The platform had looked solid, but it was a layer over some kind of energy containment system. Jake and Krathzul plunged into a network of crackling power conduits and support structures. The champion's armor shorted out against the energy fields, sparks cascading across its body. Jake grabbed a support strut and held on. Pain exploded through his dislocated shoulder, but he didn't let go. Above them, the hole in the arena floor began to seal itself. Krathzul wasn't as lucky. The champion's weight and thrashing carried it deeper into the energy field. The creature screamed as its armor conducted lethal voltage directly into its body. It reached for Jake one last time. Claws extended. Jake pulled himself up onto the strut, out of reach. Should have made it quick. The champion's eyes dimmed. Its massive body went still. Then it fell, disappearing into the depths of the arena ship's interior. Jake hung from the strut, barely conscious. His entire body was shutting down. He'd won, but he was going to die here anyway. The platform above him opened. A Kale warrior descended on some kind of anti-gravity platform, followed by Amy and a medical team. "Jake!" Amy's voice sounded distant, like she was shouting from the other end of a tunnel. "Stay with me. Don't you dare die now." They pulled him up. The arena swam back into focus. Thousands of alien faces stared down at him in absolute silence. No one was cheering. No one was celebrating. They looked like they'd just watched something impossible. Jake's eyes found Valeria's throne. The Empress stood at the edge of her platform, her 6 eyes burning with an intensity that cut through his fading consciousness. Her expression was no longer the cold authority from before. It was something Jake couldn't identify, something that might have been respect or fury or something else entirely. "The human wins," Valeria's voice rang out across the arena. "Humanity has earned its century of autonomy." The words triggered a wave of reaction through the assembled species. Shock, disbelief, fear. Valeria descended from her throne, moving with that liquid grace. She crossed the arena floor to where the medical team was working on Jake. Amy tried to step between them, but the Empress simply looked at her. Amy froze. Valeria knelt beside Jake. Up close, her alien beauty was overwhelming. You destroyed my champion. You, a human who could barely stand. How? Jake's vision was fading. We don't know when to quit. No, there is more. Valeria's hand touched his face, her skin cool and strange. I have watched species fight for survival for 3,000 years. I have seen courage and desperation and everything between. But you did not fight for survival, Commander Morrison. Then what did I fight for? Valeria's smile was terrible and beautiful. You fought to prove me wrong. You fought because I expected you to fail. Her 6 eyes searched his face. You fought because you wanted me to see what humanity could do. Jake's laugh came out as a wet cough. Did it work? Yes. Valeria stood. You have your century, Commander. But know this. I will be watching your species closely. And when your century ends, we will have another conversation. She turned to the assembled aliens in the arena. Let this serve as lesson. Humanity is under my protection for 100 years. Any who violate this decree will answer to me personally. Jake's consciousness slipped away to the sound of alien voices raised in fearful acknowledgement. The last thing he saw was Valeria's face, those 6 burning eyes fixed on him with an expression he still couldn't name. Then darkness took him. Jake woke up 3 weeks later in a military hospital on New Terra. The first thing he saw was Amy asleep in a chair beside his bed, her hand resting near his. The second thing he saw was Admiral Grant standing by the window, looking out at the city below. Welcome back, Commander, Grant said without turning around. The doctor said you'd probably sleep for another week. Glad you're as stubborn about healing as you are about everything else. Jake tried to speak. His throat felt like sandpaper. Amy stirred, her eyes snapping open. She grabbed a water cup and helped him drink. Easy, she said. You've been through hell and back. Literally. Did we win? Jake managed. Grant finally turned from the window. You won. The Kale Empire transmitted formal recognition of humanity's autonomy. 100 years. Guaranteed. Every colony world is celebrating. You're a hero, Morrison. Jake closed his eyes. Kraft? Zool? Dead. You killed the Kale Empire's undefeated champion with broken ribs and a dislocated shoulder. Grant's voice carried something that might have been pride. Every military academy in human space is going to be studying that fight for decades. Lucky, Jake said. Luck had nothing to do with it. Grant moved closer to the bed. But we have a problem. Actually, we have several problems, but one is more immediate than the others. Amy's expression darkened. The Empress has been sending messages every day since the trial. All of them addressed specifically to you. Jake's stomach tightened. What kind of messages? Grant pulled up a holographic display. Valeria's image materialized, smaller than in the arena, but no less imposing. Commander Morrison, I trust you are recovering well. I wanted to inform you that I have begun a comprehensive study of human culture, history, and military tactics. Your species fascinates me more each day. I look forward to our next conversation. Until then, I remain watchfully interested. The message ended. Another began immediately. Commander Morrison, I have been reviewing footage of our trial. I have watched your final attack approximately 700 times. Each viewing reveals new details about human tactical thinking. No other species in my empire employs such aggressive improvisation. I am beginning to understand why you resisted the voice. Message after message played. Valeria discussing human literature. Valeria analyzing human military history. Valeria asking questions about Earth's oceans, human art, the concept of democracy. There are 43 of these, Grant said, all sent in the last 3 weeks. All progressively more personal. Jake, I think you have an admirer. That's not funny. I'm not joking. Our xenopsychology team has been analyzing her communication patterns. The Empress is exhibiting behavior consistent with intense curiosity bordering on obsession. She's never shown this level of interest in any species before. Jake struggled to sit up. Pain lanced through his torso, but he pushed through it. What does that mean for humanity? We don't know. It could be good. It could be catastrophic. The most powerful being in known space has decided humans are interesting. That's either the best thing that could happen to us, or the worst. Amy squeezed his hand. You didn't just buy us time, Jake. You got her attention. Real attention. The kind that changes empires. A new holographic alert appeared. Grant's face went pale. Incoming transmission. It's her. She's calling right now. Don't answer it, Jake said. Too late. She's overriding our systems. Grant stepped back as Valeria's full-size image materialized in the hospital room. The Empress looked different somehow. Less cold. Her 6 eyes found Jake immediately, and something that might have been relief flickered across her alien features. Commander Morrison. You are awake. Excellent. Your Majesty, Jake said carefully. I wanted to inform you personally that I have made a decision regarding humanity. Valeria's voice was softer than Jake remembered. Your century of autonomy stands, but I am adding a condition. Grant tensed. We had an agreement, and I am honoring it, Admiral. The condition is for my benefit, not a restriction on humanity. Valeria's gaze never left Jake. I wish to establish a cultural exchange program between the Kale Empire and humanity. Specifically, I wish to learn more about your species directly. Why? Jake asked. Valeria was silent for a long moment. Because in 3,000 years, Commander Morrison, you are the first being who made me feel something other than boredom. When you laughed in that arena, broken and bleeding, you reminded me that there are still things in this universe I do not understand. I find I want to understand them. The weight of those words settled over the room like snow. I will not force this exchange, Valeria continued. Humanity has earned its freedom, but I am making a personal request. Allow me to learn about your species. Allow me to visit your worlds. Allow me to speak with your people. Her expression softened further. Allow me to speak with you. Jake looked at Grant. The Admiral's face was unreadable. He looked at Amy, who shrugged helplessly. Then he looked back at the 3,000-year-old Empress, who had offered humanity survival and was now asking for something far stranger. Permission to be curious. On one condition, Jake said. Valeria tilted her head. Name it. You actually listen. No conquest. No annexation plans. No schemes. You want to learn about humanity? Then learn. Really learn. See us as we are. Not as subjects or threats or entertainment. The Empress smiled. It transformed her face into something that was almost warm. You continue to surprise me, Commander. Very well. I accept your condition. I will see humanity as you truly are. She paused, and for the first time since Jake had met her, she looked almost uncertain. Perhaps you might show me yourself when you've recovered. I would very much like to continue our conversation. The transmission ended before Jake could respond. The hospital room was silent for a full minute. Well, Amy finally said. That just happened. Grant ran a hand through her hair. The most powerful tyrant in the galaxy just asked you on a date, Morrison. That was not a date. That was absolutely a date. Jake lay back against the pillows, his mind reeling. Humanity had won a century of freedom. He'd killed an undefeated champion. And now the Empress of the Kale Empire wanted to learn about humans by starting with him. What do I do? He asked. Grant looked out the window again, at the human city sprawling below, alive and free for another 100 years, because one man had refused to kneel. You do what you've been doing, Commander. You show her what humanity is made of. You prove we're worth her interest. Grant's smile was sharp. And maybe, just maybe, you make the most dangerous being in the universe decide that humans are worth more than conquest. Jake closed his eyes. His body ached. His future had just become infinitely more complicated. The fate of humanity might rest on his ability to have a conversation with an alien empress who could annihilate worlds with a thought. But he'd faced worse odds in that arena, and he'd won. All right, he said softly. Let's see what happens when an empress meets humanity. Outside the hospital window, New Terra's sun set on a day humanity would never forget. The day they stopped being prey and became something far more dangerous. They became interesting. And across the stars, in her throne room aboard the Eternal flagship, Empress Valeria smiled and began planning her first visit to Earth.